basically their aroma journey, as I like to say. So, how did you get into be an aromatherapist, Gabriel?
Well, I've never done anything really apart from natural medicine. When I was in my gap year, this was well before discovering essential oils, but it got me on the path of natural medicine. And so I was in my gap year, between high school and university. And I was spending 6 months in Paris. And this guy took me to this little restaurant called the Bol Endroit. And in this shop there, they had this book called the Book of Macrobiotics. And that had... that introduced me to yin and yang.
Okay.
And the 5 elements and also, plant medicine, not directly speaking, but, initially, more like through diet, of course. Mm-hmm. But, the whole thing about the animal kingdom being yang and the vegetable kingdom being yin. So it was all kind of connected. And initially, my initial training was like in shiatsu therapy, and later I co-wrote a book with Chris Jarmy, who, in fact, for a while in the 80s, I helped him with his school called the European Shiatsu School. I think maybe that's still the name. About 10 years ago, he sadly died. I didn't know, nobody knew, but he had like a congenital heart condition.
Oh no!
But anyway, we wrote a book in like the late 80s. But anyway, as far as and then acupuncture, I went to acupuncture school and started that in 1984. And mainly, actually, initially, not so much because I wanted to do needling. I wanted to learn more about, TCM. I did end up practicing acupuncture, but my initial interest was kind of to go deeper, more into Oriental medicine. Uh-huh. And while I was doing that course, which was at Leamington Spa, it was like the 5-element approach. I did another course as well that covered the rest of it. But there was a course run by Carlo De Paoli, who was an acupuncturist, osteopath, and herbalist. And it was in herbal medicine, herbs, Western herbs, not mainly Chinese herbs, like, ginseng and ginger and things, but it was according to the principles of Chinese medicine. So, and then the oils came into that because obviously, well, a lot of Western herbs, sage, thyme, rosemary. I mean, a ton. Well, I mean, probably more. Obviously, the majority of essential oils that we use, they're also used obviously as herbal medicines. So the oils came in, but I also did a course with Carlo as well, following on from that, which was specifically on essential oils.
Okay.
Again, with a strong Chinese medicine emphasis. And also the massage element included like soft tissue body work and joint mobilization and so forth, because of Carlo's osteopathic background. And that kind of linked in with my, doing shiatsu in a way. But, and then I heard about these 2 famous French scientific teachers of aromatherapy who are still going. I mean, I'm talking about Pierre Francombe and Daniel Penwell, Dr. Penwell.
Yeah.
And this was, I think it was in 1988, they offered it was over 3 sessions. They came to London to teach what they call scientific aromatherapy, which filled out my knowledge and understanding, and took me deeper. I mean, I think Francomme, in fact, invented the term key. Well, he wrote this. I saw it the other day because I shared his blog on Facebook. But I was reading it about Pierre, and he says and I guess he must have done, he invented the term chemotypes.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And I haven't seen much of Pierre over the years, but I've seen on occasion. I've seen Daniel Penwell, Dr. Penwell. So they're both sort of quite famous and quite interesting character. Well, especially Dr. Penwell, an interesting character. Anyway, so sorry, that's my long-winded history of how I got into. And the other thing was, while I was at acupuncture school in around 1985, I worked at Neal's Yard, and it was the only store. That was just one store in Covent Garden.
So that one, where it still is, of course, that you worked in the treatment rooms, or in the.
Actually, at that stage, there wasn't a treatment room.
Okay.
So it was just the store. I mean, I used to order the herbs and put them in you have to wear a mask because it'd be so dusty. I'd be sneezing, and people would come in and they would say, I've got this stomach problem. What do you suggest? And then I got into a little bit of trouble because I'd ask them to show me their tongue. I do a little bit of the TCM thing to decide what the underlying cause was and what the best herb for them would be and all that, But that was owned by Romy Fraser then, and then she ended up selling Neal's Yard to Dorling Kindersley.
Okay.
But so I worked with Susan Curtis, and I noticed Susan, she was a speaker at an IFPA conference in Glasgow about 2014 maybe, but I think she's also like a herbalist and homeopath. Very nice person, but I noticed her book, which I think is published by Neal's Yard. I think it's about number 1 in the Amazon top 100 aromatherapy books.
Is it? Is it really?
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. It's a good book. I've got it lying around somewhere. Anyway.
Oh, well, that's fascinating, Gabriel. I didn't realise we haven't really talked ourselves about that, but exactly where everything's slotted in. So would you say it not fell into it by accident, but as you went along, holistic / alternative medicines interests, you kind of came across? Oh, yes, and from the herbal aspect of it, I suppose. Would you say, is that kind of how you came into aromatherapy from the herbal side of it?
Yeah, I did. Yeah. I think it was a kind of, thinking about it, it was stepping stone. I discovered macrobiotics, which is more of a Japanese way of, means great life, a way of eating, for health. It's a lot more besides. It's a whole, philosophy. I mean, in that book of Macrobiotics, there's a whole thing about the order of the universe and Taoism that underpins TCM and everything. So, and then also, I mean, I was, I got into yoga quite young, so I've had a long interest in, Ayurvedic medicine.
Okay.
But I guess it was a stepping stone because macrobiotics got me into TCM and acupuncture, which got me into herbs, which was a very small stepping stone into essential oils, because I mean, the way I see them, it's just using essential oils is really botanical medicine. It's just you're using their distilled extracts.
Yes. Yeah.
As opposed to aqueous and alcohol, tincture based.
Yeah.
So it's all connected. In fact, in the kitchen there, I've got these, aromatic herbal tinctures that are produced by, I don't know if you know him, but they're Joe Nasser, who's got a herb farm in Wales and has the Avicenna. Yeah. And I've got ones of like rose and neroli and geranium, all, and they've got the essential oil component in there. So they're like aromatic tinctures, and in fact, a lot of the time he produces them by. Kelly just bought me that one. Oh yeah, that's their dandelion. But he instead of just using regular spring water, he uses hydrosol.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and then I guess you could. Yeah. So, yeah, no, it's all quite exciting, really. I kind of see it all part of botanical medicine. And, now there's a growing interest in CO2 extracts. Mm-hmm. In fact, Kelly and I did this marathon 6-hour webinar with Madeleine Kerkhoff a couple of weeks ago. We'd done some stuff with her before. We did a weekend with her in Holland. But so there's not that much research in the activities of CO2 extracts, and it's hard to get information about their constituent profiles.
Mm-hmm. I guess, do you think CO2 will open up a new avenue in aromatherapy, a new discovery, if I could say that, or tapping into something that really looked at as therapy?
Yeah, I think slowly that, there's more interest in hydrosols as well, with like Anne Harmon and Joe Nasser and people, and using them, which are very safe to take like orally to drink them, I mean, infinitely safer than essential oils because they're thousands of times more dilute.
Yeah.
And I've got some profiles of their constituents. But yeah, I think that our repertoire, our arsenal of aromatic interventions is kind of steadily growing and expanding. Mm-hmm. And what I'm particularly interested in, which I've been doing quite a bit of like research on and stuff for, the NAHA conference coming up that we're, holding jointly with NAHA, IFPA is. Yeah. I'll be focusing a lot on their antioxidant properties, and and also how those antioxidant properties combine with the anti-inflammatory ones, which make especially many most essential oils have antioxidant activity, but some are more potent than others. Mm-hmm. Like eugenol is clove bud is off the charts because of eugenol and some other phenols. But the interesting thing about the CO2 extracts is they've got a wider range of constituents. They've got some of the heavier ones that don't carry through, that are like more non-volatile. Okay. Like apigenin, which you get in especially German as well as Roman chamomile. That if you look up apigenin on PubMed, you will see like a ton of research into its antioxidant properties. Now the thing is that the antioxidant activities of the oils, they underpin all the faculties and the oils and the CO2 extracts have in terms of protecting your heart, protecting your brain. I'm talking about cardioprotective, neuroprotective, anti-Alzheimer's, gastroprotective, protecting your stomach against, gastritis and ulcer. Hepatoprotective, anti-diabetic activity. Wow. It's the antioxidant, and combined, that's what makes them unique, that a lot of aromatic compounds have, synergized by nature in the form of essential oils and the CO2 extracts. That is like the hidden power that a lot of aromatics have to be of incredible benefit for many different conditions.
Wow. It's something that I'm personally, a little bit naive on myself, really, because it was something that not to take away any of the training or any of the wonderful habits. Hydrosols were talked about it, but it was kind of just a little. You talked about it, but you didn't really go
down
a lot more than what.
But you see, you are perfect. You are perfectly placed, because I watch your Facebook stories and stuff.
Okay,
you're
busted.
I know what you get up to in Shanghai. You go to all those restaurants where they have all those amazing spicy type of. You like spicy food?
Yeah, I like all spices. Spices. That's I love aromatherapy. Spices. Therapy, spices, cooking and food for medicinal reasons as well.
Sure. What I mean is, a lot of those foods that you eat there, are going to be really rich in all of those special spices and herbs.
Yeah.
Yeah, like Szechuan pepper and, everything like that.
Yeah, I even had Szechuan pepper oil tonight, just drizzled on my food. Just the oil itself. And you can't, there isn't a oil that is grown here out in Yunnan province that I really want to get my paws onto. When I smelt it, like, oh my God, it's just divine. But taken in a hydrosol sense, that's a different ball game, really. But something that really, really opened up aromatherapy.
Did you say the hydrosol?
Yeah, hydrosols and the CO2 as well. That will just, rather than just the traditional extract methods.
Well, one of my two big inspirations in aromatherapy, one is Peter Holmes, who has a more energetic TCM approach, and I reviewed his books for the IJCA, on Aromatic, volumes 1 and 2. But my other big inspiration, is Rhiannon Lewis, who I work with on the IJCA. I'm not associate editor at the moment, but I've worked with and supported her for many years. But I think probably the best class I ever did on the hydrosols was with Rhiannon.
Okay.
And we were at Joe Nasser. This was in 2013. We were at Joe Nasser's place I mentioned in Wales. I was there, giving a class. But she gave a class on the hydrosols. And it's very, typically with Rhiannon, being like Virgo, very practical in an adaptable way. It was all about, mouth care, for mouth hygiene and treating oral conditions, for example, and skin care. And so that was a really good class on the actual, like medicinal therapeutic applications of hydrosols. That was really good. Otherwise,
hydrosol mouthwash and being good. I'm not promoting any COVID prevention here, just to let Instagram know, but I have heard about the mouthwash of using a hydrosol. Very good at germ, prevent.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. But I also kind of feel like the hydrosols as well, because they are they're a naturally dilute. They come out of the still with a natural dilution. To me, they're also could be a little bit like, they're also, and I've used them in this way, which is for their more like subtle properties, almost like the natural batch aromatic remedies.
Okay, I see what
which you can easily take orally or just add to your spring water and sip it throughout the day. I see, that's a very very TCM kind of approach as well. That's practiced quite regularly here. That type of having a tea format and just sipping on it throughout the day. That's very true. Yeah.
Well, you would have, not to digress, Gabriel, but when you joined Neil's Yard, then you would have seen a massive, I suppose, an explosion of aromatherapy since that time to where we are now. I suppose in the world as well.
I think the 90s was a big, well, maybe I think the 90s was the real boom year in the UK. And then also it took off in Japan, maybe. And, this is my own impression. Other people might have a different view, as always. But, and then I think Japan followed on, especially maybe second half of 90s through most of the noughties. And then it kind of a bit, I think the UK kind of reached a plateau, in the noughties, whereas in Asia, I think especially the last decade, the teens, I guess, I think that's where Asia was the real kind of growth area, if you like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think maybe the US, though, it's just kind of grown and grown, and of course, it's got all sort of, I don't know what the word is, mixed up, but I mean, there's been the rise of the MLMs, which I saw happen around 97.
Okay.
So that's made essential oils a lot more popular, but maybe not always in, the best way.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
Particularly the couple of companies that have always keep popping up on social media as well, and a whole lot of other places. Yeah. I know in Australia's always had quite a good culture of herbalism, if I could use that term. I remember as a kid, but then when I went back to Australia after being away for a while, maybe because I was an aromatherapist, and I was noticing more. But I noticed an explosion in essential oil. The availability to find them everywhere, and it just as a practice, it seemed to be really a lot more common now, which is great.
Yeah.
Great to see, and the use of it and the knowledge. All my friends who I had spoke to for a while, oh yeah, we use essential oils here when we do them here. We use them on our babies, and just something I didn't realise that. Something kind of that the community started to grow. But when I was a kid, no one used essential oils apart from tea tree or something that always. It is the Australian mum's medicine cabinet was always at the tea tree and eucalyptus. But apart from that, it was quite.
Well, I've only been once. I think it was 2001. I was there a whole month. I had the help. One of my graduates, Michelle Wolf, who specializes in what do they call it? I've lost the term now, but colonic irrigation, and she's a nurse and a naturopath. And then Ron Guba as well, who's very well known in clinical aromatherapy, aromatic medicine. He studied with Penwell. I actually saw him most recently in a conference in the States in 2017. But they organised. I did a class in Sydney, and one in Melbourne and Adelaide. And they even back then it was there was a lot of interest. I mean, I had about 120 people in the Sydney class, 80 people in the Melbourne class. So it was quite a bit of interest, and I always meant to go back. There was an idea I would go back and teach more of, my stuff, the Oriental medicine approach. But I don't know, for one thing or another, I think it soon after that, I went to the States for a year, and, other things happened.
Okay.
So maybe I could still go back. I still haven't been to, the West Coast.
Me neither. So we will have to go together then.
Yeah. Definitely.
So, Gabriel, you got experience at Neil's Yard and learned more about essential oils. Did you go off and did you open up your own practice? Did you, or how did you?
Yeah, I should probably say that I wasn't really at Neil's Yard all that long. It was just, you know what I mean. I can't remember, but anyway, So what happened was, when I finished acupuncture school in 87, and I became a member of the British Acupuncture Council, I've done my herb course in essential oils. I did the course with Francom and Penwell. Yeah, no, I started a private practice, and ever since then, I've given consultations. Not so many acupuncture treatments like I did in the early days, but I combined. Typically, someone would come. I'd give them could take even a good hour to go through their, give them a full consultation. And I ended up teaching that approach as well.
Okay.
The approach that you do based on, quite a detailed clinical case taking, and then, pulse and tongue diagnosis, listening to the voice, all kinds of things to get an assessment of any of the underlying condition of any that underpins any, ailments that a client may have, patient may have. Mm-hmm. And, so I kind of combined acupuncture and also a little bit of what I call aromatic acupressure, which is acupressure massage using diluted essential oils. And then I would tend to prescribe them tinctures, and then also, make up blends of essential oils for them to also use. So kind of an integration. But I ended up teaching that, and, through a school I started in 1990. I took over, technically, which is the Institute of Traditional Herbal Medicine and Aromatherapy. Mm-hmm. And that was in 1990. And it's a little bit dormant at the moment because I'm doing other, I'm at the moment taking a bit of a sabbatical from that, doing research and writing.
Yeah.
And then what I ended up doing, around the time I became principal of the Institute, I founded the Register of Qualified Aromatherapists, which was an association which we ended up having about 6 schools, including 3 universities and also the Tisserand Institute,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So Robert was supportive with that. And then there was the Aromatherapy Organizations Council, which was going for about a decade. And they for some reason, they thought I should be chair. But I stayed involved with the AOC for about a decade, and then it morphed into the AC. And then, of course, when Ian Cambray-Smith became chair of IFPA, which is the International Society of Professional Aromatherapists, which had its office in Hinckley, where we have the IFPA office, Ian was a sort of somebody who was, politically compatible or a kindred spirit who realized that we needed greater unity within the profession of aromatherapy. And we were working on that for a while. And what emerged from it is IFPA. It actually took 3 years. I mean, we pretty much started the process in 1999, and it didn't really complete until April 2002, when we had our launch at the House of Lords at the British Parliament.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So, and that's how, IFPA got started, got born.
Wow, that's fantastic. I've got a question from one of our viewers on here. Do you plan to teach online, Gabriel? I do. There's actually a class coming up I'm doing, which is being hosted by the Canadian Association of Aromatherapists, which the president is Colleen Thompson, who's principal of the Essence of Time School of Holistic Therapies. Anyway, so their CAOA, they asked me to do something following on last year from David Crow, who's another big inspiration for me. But and I think it's going to be on 5 Saturdays, and each one is 2 hours, and it's kind of an introduction to the Oriental medicine approach to aromatherapy, with a particular focus on the fragrance energetics and the 5 elements. Okay. Wow.
The fragrance energetics is a term that was coined by, Peter Holmes, another big inspiration of mine in the late 90s. And basically, it's the energetic actions associated with the main fragrance families. So that you get an understanding of the energetic effect of the resinous or the spicy or the fruity, the floral. And that is a key determining factor in understanding, the kind of overall psychoenergetic effects of the oils. And I explain those in connection with the Oriental 5 elements in particular.
Wow.
I mean, I do make sure people understand yin and yang and how that fits in as well. So it's not the full system. It's not the full TCM system that I taught on, that I have always taught on my diploma course.
Sure.
Which is more complete, because that's based on the more complete TCM approach, which is based on what we call the patterns of disharmony. You know about them? Yeah. Also known as the syndromes, like lung qi deficiency or heart qi deficiency, excess liver yang, that more technical side of it.
Yeah.
A bit more technical. So the 5 elements is connected to all that, but it's a good first step into understanding both TCM, but in particular the relationship, or how you can use TCM to make more accurate prescriptions for your selection clinically of essential oils.
Yeah. Wow.
And I've always taught that connection in a way that's very relevant to aromatherapy. I never teach about Oriental medicine on its own. It's always in connection with the oils.
Okay, so it's a blend, no pun intended. I've also got another question in regards to that. Will it be a separate course or part of the certificate program of the school?
You mean my school?
The one that the upcoming course, is that going to? From what I gather, it's a separate course, isn't it, Gabriel? Run at the other.
This one actually. This one. The one that I'm doing for the CAOA, the Canadian Association. Yeah, that's just like a standalone series of webinars for their principally really for their members. But I think I saw we checked this morning, and they only just put it online. It does say non-members, so I'm assuming other people can join it. So I'm just at a state. Okay, so I'm taking a break right now. I've got things planned, but I'm needing to do the research and writing, and then sort of come back. Mainly, my big thing, most of all, right now, which you can maybe pick up on when I was kind of going on about antioxidant, which I'm a bit obsessed by, is to try and do more to integrate that understanding of TCM energetic, and even Ayurvedic energetics generally, and research evidence.
Okay.
Because the older I got, sort of thing, the more I'm also really interested in, the scientific research evidence for essential oil activities.
Yeah.
So the writing I'm doing in that regard will support, like future training, which I'll offer myself through my institute, most likely.
Okay, fantastic.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'll wait for that. I'll have to keep an eye out for that too, Gabriel.
Sure. I'll give you a discount.
Okay, deal.
Or a freebie or something. Yeah.
That's for sure. I've got someone actually asking, would this course be accredited as a CPD course? And if per CPD, is it going to have that kind of accreditation to it, or?
Well, the way that we work with IFPA, of course, is that any valid course that you can show evidence for So even this one of the CE, it doesn't have to be, in order to get CPD credits for your annual renewal as an IFPA member, it doesn't have to be, any kind, it just has to be a valid course, is what I mean.
Yeah.
So even this one for the CE, I think I worked out, I think it was 10 points, because I'm doing 5 webinars of 2 hours each.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean, basically anything that I've done over the years, you can use it for CPD points. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Gabriel. That was a question.
And remember, we've got our NAHA conference coming up.
Yeah.
And the NAHA IFPA collaboration conference in June. And as I pointed out in the email that we sent out from the office, there's only one sign up. You can't do a day. You just sign up for the whole thing. I think it's very reasonably priced, especially considering that you're going to get those videos forever.
Yeah.
You can watch them, and as some, I can't remember how many, but it's over 3 days equivalent. So I don't know, maybe 20, 30, I can't remember how many speakers, but we worked it out, and it's equivalent, for an IFPA member, it's equivalent to 2 full years of CPD.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, so that's good.
Yeah.
And I'm doing a webinar for that. I'm doing a webinar for a Spanish-speaking a conference called Aromatica. Mm-hmm. And plus I'm doing one for, I'm hoping if they should choose me for the International Herb Symposium. So I got with all these webinars coming up, in Kelly too. I don't know if you can see, but I got this sort of studio set up. This, so I'm trying to get it in the frame. I'm not doing a very good job with all this special lighting and stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, there's two dual camera and 3.
I'm jealous.
Well, I should have asked for your advice, because I know you're more of an editor, but you're a video expert, aren't you? But I realized this morning that I need to get these light boxes. The light's a little bit too harsh.
Yeah.
So something else I've got to fork out for.
Get into it, Gabriel. It will never stop. It's like essential oils.
Yeah.
Just keep getting stuff, and then you can own YouTube channel. Have a whole bunch of things going on. Set up
I think sound. And this is a great thing. I'll tell you, the NAHA conference is going to be really good, because they're going. The wonderful chair and treasurer Annette and Eric Davis. Lovely couple. They live in Idaho. They're both also herbalists that specialize in the biogeny approach of Dr. Claude Lapraz, who's a Parisian doctor and naturopath. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so they're making sure that all the speakers' videos are going to be really good audio and visual quality. Mm-hmm. So I think they're going to be really, really good.
Yeah, I'll put anyone still listening out there, there's still people logged in here. Check out
Amazing.
The link in the box. Yeah. Going over our lot of time, but it doesn't care. I've put a link in that upcoming conference. It's in the Instagram feed below, everyone.
Yeah.
And also on our LinkedIn, Twitter, and Facebook for anyone. But if anyone's got any questions about it, you can just ping me here, and I can ask the office, or everyone get in touch with Gabriel as well, or we'll get in touch with the office if you've got questions about that. So I've got a question here, Gabriel. The Alliance of International Aromatherapists Conference is in September.
Yeah.
Are you involved with that one as well, Gabriel?
No, not this one. I have spoken for them. I spoke for them on one occasion, but not this time. But I think Kelly's speaking. I've got to ask her. Kelly, are you?
Actually, I think Kelly as well. saw something pop up on her feed about.
I can't actually remember if she's speaking for that one or not. But anyway, sorry. But no, I'm not. But I've taken a look at it. It looks really great. I think it's another one to definitely consider. There's a few this year, but oh no, sorry, she's not. She did. She spoke at the last two, so she's having a break.
Okay.
But it looks good. I'm trying to remember if I can remember specifically much, but anyway, yeah, well worth considering.
What I find, dare I say, one of the only.
Oh, Rhiannon is speaking. Sorry, I remember Rhiannon is speking. So
okay, yeah,
that'll be good. Yeah, she's a keynote. I'm just remembering now. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
No. I was just going to say one of the positives of, I shouldn't say positive of COVID because there's nothing, but I'm just trying to look at it. The bright side of things is that a lot of these aromatherapy conferences that people wouldn't normally just be able to get to, now we can join online and have a bit more of a world-based community, rather, if you know what I mean. Joining, logging in online is a great way of getting access to a lot of these conferences where the little aromatherapists like I was back on the Isle of Wight, when I was back, in the UK, wouldn't have gone to, wouldn't have been able to get to these things. So it's great that now that the community is bigger, but also more in touch through these different conferences. So I think it's a positive thing.
Yeah,
in that,
definitely. Yeah,
in that. So
absolutely.
Well, since you got a very busy Gabriel, that's for sure. So you don't have to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you think? How do you think
do it all right here.
We'll pick up after for therapists and practitioners with COVID, because it's been difficult here in China as well. Like there's therapy centers have just kind of shut down all over the place due to COVID, and I know in speaking to Casway in Japan, they've had a lot of hard time getting back up again. Do you think confidence will come back soon? Well, you know
what? I just shared it on Facebook, but I just read in The Guardian there was some research done by the University of Edinburgh, Usher Institute, which just determined that the two main vaccines, the AstraZeneca and Pfizer vaccines, have meant a reduction of between 85 to 94% of hospital admissions.
Wow.
So, that's hopeful.
Yeah.
I think that's a hopeful situation. But I think the main thing is, again, I tend to think in terms of root causes. And, our destruction of natural habitats and wilderness has meant that species like, the pangolins and bats, or pangolins have been illegally traded, but bats in particular, animal species that have always been more remote in the wild. Mm-hmm. When we destroy those habitats, then humans become more, there's more of a, there's more contact, potential contact between humans and those species that carry, for them, innocuous virus that for us are, lethal. So I think that, for the future, I'm hoping things, there's a good sign with the vaccines that things will get back to normal. But my concern for the future is that we address those underlying causes. And the underlying cause is the same message that, that climate change is telling us. That we've got to think about sustainability, conservation, rewilding natural habitats, and having a more harmonious relationship with nature, which is all, for me, that's a big part of what aromatherapy is about. It's about restoring individual harmony, but it's also about, the olfaction, smelling, the limbic system, which smell is also connected to our root chakra, as the earth chakra. The chakra, the Muladhara chakra, the sense is smell. And that's what keeps us connected to the earth.
Mm.
So I think aromatherapy, we also think of it as a therapy that reconnects us to the earth. And then out of that, we lose our plant blindness. You know, Kelly teaches a lot about plant blindness and nature blindness. So I think we have to take aromatherapy and use it also to inspire people to preserve our planet. And then that in turn will mean that we have a more harmonious relationship with our environment, which, by the way, is the root teaching of Taoism, which underpins Chinese medicine, is a harmony with the universe.
Yeah.
So, you know, I think if we follow that path, then we'll actually accumulate. I know this sounds, for me, it's kind of a spiritual logic. It's not superstition. But I believe in the law of cause and effect, which on a subtle plane we call karma, which karma simply means action.
Yeah.
If we take right action to conserve and nurture, which is those principles of the Tao, to nurture, to conserve, then that will give us the good karma we need to go forward and be successful. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. Yeah. I couldn't agree, Gabriel. I couldn't agree 100%, you know, from what you were mentioning about urbanization and, you know, destruction of wildlife. I mean, that we Ebola outbreak, that how Ebola in Sierra Leone, and correct me if I'm wrong in that country, but was a result of deforestation and going into habitats, and then we won't even get started on China and their mega cities and how big they are. So
a lot of challenges.
I agree with you 100%, 100% on all that.
Yeah.
So, question here, let's digress.
Yeah. Okay.
A quick question regarding hydrosols. As you mentioned, they are safer to consume. How do we know that clean to take from companies that sell them less? Okay, so basically say it's the colourful aromatherapists. Thank you, Manji. Basically saying, how do we know which ones are clean to take?
Quality, about quality control. Well, I think, you know, it's a case of using your judgment by looking at the company as a whole, its sustainability policies, if it's, you know, if it supplies organic, if it's, you know, a member of the Soil Association, what's the information like that it provides on its website? You know, if it's a company at the same time which is able to provide, you know, GC analyses for their batches of essential oil, that's another good sign. I'm not saying one thing is a determining factor, but I think it's an accumulation of evidence that you put together, and then you just know based on those factors whether it's a company that you can trust. Yeah,
I agree, and
I
agree. Like as an aromatherapist, we do our own research in that sense and find, you know, what the research the companies, and you know, ask for samples and test them out yourself. That's the best way to approach. But
beyond, you know, having them tested, having a hydrosol tested is also more expensive than like an essential oil, I believe. But anyway, you know, I think it's just looking at the company and then recommendations and making a judgment on that basis.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm tempted to mention some, but then I might forget some, and I don't. You know, I probably ought to be careful not to do that. But anyhow,
but it's helpful. I know the Aromatic Wisdom profile has jumped in and said that too, Manjit, that I have a course in hydrosols that teaches that, so that's good to know. I might look you up myself. Check that out. But Gabriel, I won't keep it too long.
Okay.
I could talk with you for hours and hours. I'm sure everyone could listen as well. But I just want to ask you a couple more questions. And one thing I ask everyone: what's your favourite essential oil or oils?
I've got a few, but I'll run through them very quickly. I realise that among the classic oils, I think they all fall under the salvia genus. Well, now they do, because rosemary is now classified as Salvia rosmarinus.
Oh, is it really? Okay.
Yeah.
You posted something about that a couple of weeks ago, or months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah.
So Salvia rosmarinus. I just got a new bottle from. Well, I mentioned Materia Aromatic because I helped to start it like 25 years ago. Although I don't have any stake in it anymore, but they're loved. I know where they come from, and they're absolutely sublime essential oils. So I just got a 30 ml bottle of the camphor chemotype of rosemary, and also a 30 ml bottle of Salvia levandulifolia, Spanish sage.
Okay.
So I put them in the bath. They're both, and then I love Salvia scleria. Which is interesting because another thing I've been really researching is all the traditional symbolism of the aromatic plants, and rosemary is very Apollonian. It's a solar, Apollo, and very much linked to that kind of symbolism of the sun and the spirit. Whereas interestingly, the clary sage symbolism doesn't go as far back, but like coal pepper, I think, and it's been connected to associated more with the moon, having a lunar aspect to it, and kind of reconnecting you with your instinctive nature. And I guess it makes sense too, because obviously it's popular, or it's it's actually shown clinical research benefit for, problems like menstrual pain. So that's the lunar cycle going on there. Anyway, sorry. And then Salvia triloba as well, Greek sage, is really lovely, kind of more like earthy among the sages, among the Salvia. And then I've got a special love for white sage, Salvia apiana.
Okay.
Which reminds me that Kelly and I are just working on the newsletter for the Aromatic Institute, for which I'm a director, and she's the boss. No, not boss. She's the director, and I'm on the board. Sorry, I'm not a director. I can't remember anyway. I help with the newsletter on the layout side, and I'm just laying out, like yesterday, an article that she wrote on white sage. Lovely title. It's a sustainable vision quest. Because unfortunately, California white sage, Salvia apiana, it's threatened as a plant. So you have to use it, really only obtain it from a sustainable source. So those are the five. Those five oils are. I realize actually that among the classic oils, they're like the five of my favorite, or four of those definitely are all salvia. And then some other ones, I love boswellia, frankincense, I like the California white sage. I like the kind of desert scents, including Rocky Mountain juniper. This is Juniperus scropulorum. It's really amazing. I like the conifers generally, but maybe that's one of my that's amazing, sort of kind of dry, deserty, coniferous fragrance energy to it. Okay. And then osha root, which also unfortunately is threatened. That's Ligusticum porteri. I've always loved osha root. I don't even know where you can get it at the moment, or certainly a sustainable source. Okay. But it's quite an amazing oil. And then the last one, there's also erigeron, which is pretty amazing I've had, which is more of a sweet herbaceous. It's actually Canadian fleabane, Erigeron canadensis. Yeah, it's got this amazing kind of bittersweet herbaceous. I can't describe it. It's pretty amazing. And then finally, one of maybe the most mysterious ones. It's kind of it's from a bark, but it's got this kind of really unusual, exotic Amazonian. Like if you could imagine the Amazon and the rainforest, it's Cascarilla bark.
Okay.
And it's Croton elitaria. In some of that particular one, for example, as well as erigeron, I think you'd have to get it through like Oshadi. They have the biggest range.
Okay.
But the Cascarilla Bark is really amazing. You can imagine being in the rainforest.
Wow, I'm definitely going to see. Sure. Wow, I'll track a bit of that down. But speaking of sustainability, Gabriel, what we were talking about before, just in how we live and as humans and etc. But with essential oils and herbs, but I heard this conversation brought up only last week. I was listening to a perfumer talk about synthetic smells versus natural smells, and the argument there that there's a big debate within the perfumery world that some people want to use naturals, but of course in the argument they use synthetics. And I know as aromatherapists we use natural. That's the whole point of the therapy. But do you think that there will be? How do you think we will go with sustaining different oils? Will there be more different ways of, I shouldn't say farming maybe, or cultivation to sustain these? Or will there be some sort of shift towards a synthetic essential oil? I know that's an oxymoron, so excuse me there being so silly. But do you think like that will happen? Or?
Well, I mean, there's already the whole thing with the use of synthetics in oils to, extend them and, which is technically a kind of adulteration. I mean, that's already, that I shouldn't say that, that's been an ongoing issue. That's quite, I think those of us who, as IFPA members, for example, we know where to go to get authentic essential oils, but on the wider market, of course, there's I've seen a lot of evidence over the years, and I've read about a lot of evidence showing that there's actually already a lot of adulteration with. They may not be completely synthetic, but they'll be like isolates from grapefruit. Recently, for example, grapefruit being technically adulterated with orange terpenes, which are a lot cheaper. Okay. For example, extended in that way. No, I mean, I think that there's with the right kind of cultivation, there's a lot of plants which are of what we call in the CITES of least concern. Mm-hmm. So it's just a case of permaculture. Proper cultivation. I think we can have a good supply if we, embrace the kind of sustainable agriculture. Sure. And, control wild harvesting, especially of, threatened or near threatened plants. I think, there's a proper kind of rational way forward, but it just, I think that, we have the power as consumers to demand, to carefully select those suppliers that follow the correct guidelines of sustainability. Yeah, and actually, that's one of the goals of the Aromatic Institute is to educate people as to how to make those choices to ensure that. Yeah. But we were talking yesterday, in fact, Kelly and I, about this, and I think it's totally fine, for example, for synthetics to be used in perfumery and etc., and fragrance, or natural isolates to even be used in natural perfumery. But I think for me, that each aromatic plant, when you distill it, what it yields to you is a kind of natural alchemy from nature. Mm-hmm. That's what Paracelsus called. Paracelsus came up with the word the quintessence, and that was the original derivation from which the word essential oil was derived. Mm-hmm. Which in some ways is not a very helpful term, because it doesn't really convey the fact that essential oils are volatile. and oils and fats are anything but. They're the opposite. But Paracelsus came up with that term of quintessence. And I think that it's like the fifth principle, but it's the fifth principle that somehow by combining the five alchemically yields the kind of essential message or meaning of that aromatic plant. And I think that that can only be achieved, and that message can only be transmitted to the person's energy, aura, being on pharmacological as well as subtle levels. It can only be really effectively, most potently delivered and conveyed by using the natural distillate without being altered or adulterated in any way. So maybe I'm a purist.
No, I am.
I'm not
100%.
Yeah. You know, that you could, I guess you could call it a belief, but I would, also venture to say that, that one could sort of seek out sort of a rationale for that position. I would hope.
Yeah. Do you have any oils that you don't get along with? Ones that you like, whether it be aroma or just energy wise, you just I don't like that one.
Well, I guess they're a little bit. It just sounds a bit silly, and maybe, but they're all a little bit like my kids. I don't really like, even in a way. That sounds ridiculous, doesn't it? I definitely, by and large, even I can pretty much put up with Nioli. I mean, I can imagine if I felt like I was getting fluey or ill, probably the smell of Nioli would be, oh wow, fantastic. But there was only one time I really distinctly remember, and I'm talking about an oil that wasn't, maybe a bit oxidized because it was a bit old or something, because I've smelt plenty of those. It's not the fault of the oil.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know it, but it was in their Oshad. Nothing wrong with the Oshadi range, but it was one of theirs called Pasternak. Have you heard of Pasternak?
Yes.
Do you know what it is?
No, I have heard of it. I've had conversations.
Okay. Okay. So it's Pasternak. It's Pasternaka sativum, and you know what? It's parsnip oil.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah. Parsnip essential oil.
Yeah. Look that.
Okay. But I love parsnips. Baked parsnips with all the trimmings or whatever. I mean, so I don't know. I mean, it was only that one time. Maybe if I smelt it today, I would like it. Maybe it was a new one, but maybe it was just that batch.
Yeah.
But that was the only time that I remember smelling an oil thinking, oh God, I really don't like that.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
I'm very similar to you. I'm very not forgiving. I always find love in a lot of things, even though I mightn't fully love it as such. There's not a lot that I get put off by. So I do understand what you mean. It's hard to. But then again, I know fellow aromatherapists that I went to school with really detested a lot of oils, like from vetiver to ginger to coriander. Like really had a hatred.
Really, yeah. Well, I've got a joke with my son, who's more of an entrepreneur. But his conclusion, I always tease. Well, he endorses this idea that they all smell the same. He's like, well, they all smell the same, don't they? So anyway, there you go.
Up there, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But Aromatic Wisdom saying valerian oil. I love valerian. I absolutely love valerian. But I know what essential oils. That one, it can. But I love it.
Yeah, no, I quite like valerian. Most of the time. Yeah.
In the mood for it.
Yeah, those earthy. It's a good example, and of course, unfortunately, spikenard is also threatened. So I think it's along with angelica root. There, it's a very good analog, we call them, for alternative for spikenard. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Yaselina said wet, smelly socks. So yeah,
right, yeah.
One thing I learned was not to use valerian in clinic, because it that's the whole place just smells, and I learned my lesson quickly.
Yeah. Well, garlic is unbelievable, and I know I only had garlic oil once, maybe 25 or 30 years ago, and I had it in a jar. I had the bottle in a jar, in another jar, and you could still smell it. And Robert Ciceran told a story, I can't remember when, a little while ago, somewhere or other. And he said that somebody was walking by his house and they knocked on the door, and I said, they told him that, and he had it up in his attic. And somebody knocked on the door and said, there's a smell of garlic coming from your house. Yeah, it's unbelievable, garlic.
Well,
it's got that sulfur compound in it, which just makes it like really powerful.
I've only smelt it once, and it was exactly what you said. It was wrapped up in plastic bags and in an nest as well, just hidden away. But you can still smell it, even as soon as the box. Like, there. Well, look, Gabriel.
Okay.
So much for your time. I know we could keep talking for hours and hours, but I really want to thank you and for all our listeners out there for today. It's been great.
Sorry, I was an awkward customer there. Couldn't get on. I've gone on way too long as well. So feel free to edit.
No, this will go up natural, because even at the start, a bit bumbly, I was like, "Oh, Kelly." So it just adds to the atmosphere. So I really coming on board today, Gabriel, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it. Well, they have. But I'll leave contact details in the below in case people want to get in touch with you. And please go follow Gabriel. He has amazing things to always tell about essential oils and herbal medicine. So please go check out his page. But thanks very much, Gabriel.
Well, thank you. And thanks to everyone for listening. Have a great day.
Take you.
Take care. See you soon, David.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All the best. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.